6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Low Budget and Local. Today we are here at the U.S. Naval Undersea Museum in Keyport, Washington. The museum is chock full of information, science facts, several both manned and unmanned submersibles, along with torpedoes and even a reconstructed submarine control room to give visitors a full immersive experience. However, today we are going to be focusing on the next step in submarine technology, along with the latest exhibit of the museum here on Low Budget and Local. So we are here now with Mary Ryan to talk a little bit more about undersea vehicles. Now, Mary, you were saying earlier that there are 3 different categories for the machines that do work under the water. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I feel like it's a broad topic.
Yeah, sure. So there are 3 kinds of undersea vehicles, as you said. There are submersibles, which are vessels that have the people actually inside of them. So they're operating underwater inside the vessel as they're doing the work. Then there are remotely operated vehicles, which are like underwater robots. They go under the water attached with a long tether to the surface, and there's a person on the surface that's actually controlling them through that tether to do the work. And then there are autonomous underwater vehicles, and these are vehicles that have no tether. They are pre-programmed to go do missions, and they can go out, do a mission, collect the data, and come home with that data all on their own. So submersibles are the only vehicle that have people inside, and then remotely operated vehicles and autonomous vehicles are like robots that operate without the people inside the vehicle.
Okay. And can you, because that leads me right into another question, can you tell me a little bit about the progression of these? Because we started out with having people in submersibles going down to who knows where, and things have just been carrying on. So can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so technological advances have taken undersea vehicles from the stuff of science fiction to real-life vehicles, real-world vehicles that can do enormous amounts of work for the Navy and also for different commercial organizations. So early vehicles were test vehicles. They were really trying out the idea of what undersea vehicles can do. Whereas today, undersea vehicles have such sophisticated technology. They have capabilities that are astronomical compared to those first vehicles, and in much smaller footprints. So they can operate deeper, they can operate for much longer, they're more maneuverable. Autonomous vehicles are much more independent. What they can do is just night and day compared to those first vehicles.
Moving along in the history of it, the machine that's behind us right now, what you were saying that was the next in the chain or close to it?
So this model that we're looking at is Curve 1, and then the vehicle behind us is Curve 3.
Okay.
So it's a future generation. The scale is a little bit deceiving because this is a model and that's the actual thing. But essentially what that was is a more capable vehicle with more sophisticated technology in a smaller footprint. And like this original vehicle, it was designed to recover ordnance. So when torpedoes are tested, if they fail to come to the surface after a testing run, the Navy wants to go down and get them because they're really expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
As you can imagine, right? And so the Curve family of vehicles was designed specifically to recover torpedoes and other ordnance. Although the vehicle behind us had, that wasn't its only capability, and in 1973 it actually rescued 2 submersible pilots who were trapped in their submersible. The submersible had gotten stuck on the ocean floor, and they were minutes away from their oxygen expiring when Curve was able to raise them to the surface and save their lives. So sometimes vehicles can be applied into different applications than what they were intended for.
That's amazing. Well, and amazing how far it's come. And I'm curious as well, how quickly are things advancing as far as the technology? Because you mentioned the very first, which seems like just a tether, a housing, and a camera. How fast, I guess, is that time gap coming together where we have one coming out and then all of a sudden we have the next coming out? Are things is it taking leaps and bounds faster even as we're talking, or?
Absolutely. In fact, something that's really interesting to think about. We are looking now at all these wonderful capabilities that the Navy and the commercial worlds have with remotely operated vehicles and autonomous vehicles. And this is in the last 60 or 70 years since these machines have been invented. But if you think ahead to 60 to 70 years from now, they're going to be saying the same thing, right? They're going to be marveling at how great the technology is, and they're going to look back at us now and think, oh, those vehicles really weren't that sophisticated. So it's all relative, but that's how quickly the technology is advancing, is that we're just going to keep, exponentially growing what these vehicles can do.
Absolutely. Well, it seems even outside of the undersea fields, for the stuff that we do as far as making movies and going farther, drones have become very popular. It seems like you've got just an underwater version. And even looking around the exhibit, I saw one you have that's about roughly the size of my wrist, a small, very compact.
And actually, that's a great point too, is that as the technology improves, it's becoming more and more accessible and more affordable. So it's not just getting smaller and more capable, it's coming into reach to people who wouldn't have been able to access it when it was an early technology. So once upon a time, the military or large commercial organizations, they could be developing these things, but they were just too expensive and too new for a regular person to have access to them. But nowadays, remotely operated vehicles are a great example. There are school programs all over the country and museum programs that are, build your own ROV, and you use PVC pipes and these little kits that you buy for a couple $100s, and you can make your own ROV. Same thing, you can go online and you can buy your own kit and you can make an ROV. And so this technology is now something that is within reach of everybody, which is really a wonderful result of the technology advancing, that anybody who's interested in this has the chance to play with it and learn with it.
We are here with Lindy Doscher, the director of the museum, to get a little bit of backstory on how and when the museum opened. Thank you for joining us today. So, Lindy, when did the museum first open?
The museum opened officially as a professional museum in 1994. This was our 25th actually birthday this year in 2019. But the group, the nonprofit group that formed to fundraise and build the museum, formed in 1980. And they began construction of the museum building in 1985, and that continued through 1994 when the auditorium that we have was completed.
Yes. So I noticed that you have a wide variety of things, from torpedoes left over from World War II, ordnances, I'm told is the proper name for those. So how did all of this history come to you?
The history started coming in the early 1980s once our board knew that they were going to build a museum. So we borrowed things from other museums like the Smithsonian, or our parent command, which is the Naval History and Heritage Command in Washington, D.C. And also they just actively collected things from local bases here like the torpedoes and such.
Okay. And out of curiosity, why did the Navy why is the museum here? Is it to inform the public? Is there a deeper story? Because you were talking a little bit about that earlier.
Well, yes, to inform the public, but the Navy runs 10 museums throughout the country. They each have their own individual theme, so to speak, and the board members who formed this museum realized that the undersea story for the Navy wasn't being told. So that's how they started working. They got the land donated from the base, and they constructed the building here.
Okay. And how long have you been involved with all this?
I've been involved since 2006. I was hired to be the curator, do exhibits and research for the museum. Within a couple of months, we found out we were opening our sister museum, which is the Puget Sound Navy Museum in Bremerton. So we did that in 2007, and in 2008, I worked there as the managing director for 5 years. Then I came back here as the director in 2012. So.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for tuning in. Please come back next week. And as always, hit like and subscribe. Also, if you have an idea or want to see us cover something on the show, please contact us through our social media handles. But until next time, stay local.